Okay. In this video, we're going to look at a relationship between angles that are formed when parallel lines are intersected by a third line. So in a diagram, we know that lines are parallel if we are told in the problem that they are parallel, or if we see a marking like this. This is to indicate to you that these two lines are parallel. They have the same slope. In this example, these lines look like their slope is around 0. And we know that parallel lines never intersect. So when we have two parallel lines and then another line intersects one of them, well, we know if that line intersects one of the parallel lines, it must also intersect the other. But what we see happens is they intersect with the same angle relationships. And the angle relationships that we're looking for are called corresponding angles in this case. So corresponding angles are angles that look the same, kind of hard to explain, look the same on both of the parallel lines. So if I'm looking at angle A on the top line, then the angle on the bottom line that corresponds is the one that looks the same. It's like if you took a picture here and then brought it down here, you would say that out of these angles, the one that looks like this is this one. So we would say angle A corresponds with angle B. And what we need to know is that corresponding angles that are formed with parallel lines intersected by another line, corresponding angles are congruent. Meaning they are exactly the same measure. So we would say that A is congruent to B, and we would say that A and B are corresponding angles. So if you're looking here, can you find another pair of angles that are corresponding? That is, if you look at the top parallel line, can you find an angle that then corresponds to an angle on the bottom parallel line? And it should be pretty easy. Should see pretty readily that if you chose, call this angle C, that the corresponding angle, that is the angle that looks really just the same in this picture, must be this one. In the same way, we would say that angle X corresponds with angle Y, and angle P corresponds with angle Q. And corresponding angles are congruent. So we could say that C is congruent to D, and we would say the same thing about X and Y. Those are congruent. We would say the same thing about P and Q. Those are congruent. But these are not all corresponding angles. X is not corresponding with Q. X is only corresponding with Y. That is, corresponding angles are angles that are formed when we have parallel lines that are intersected by another line, and we see the angle looks exactly the same at both intersections. Great job, Smarty Pants!